So let's start with Iran. The government of Iran once again prohibited from buying U.S. dollars and also prohibited from trading in gold. As of today, the government cannot buy or sell raw or semi-finished metals. Individuals subject to U.S. jurisdiction, they cannot purchase Iranian government debt. And you can't do business with the country's auto sector nor the aviation sector. The waiver on carpets, pistachio, and saffron now also withdrawn. You can't buy those anymore. It's actually prohibition on foodstuffs, but for all intents and purposes, we're talking about pistachios and saffrons. Companies that were doing business or had attempted to do business but didn't get very far: Total, Peugeot, GE, Boeing, Airbus, Hyundai, Mazda. But most of those companies were already gone or going, knowing that the sanctions would be reimposed by the U.S. Next key date for Iran, November 4th. Important to the oil market. That is the day that international financial institutions can no longer facilitate oil transactions for Iran, which is, of course, an oil-producing country. Now, to Joe's stuff. The Venezuelan government. The government says there was an assassination attempt against Nicolas Maduro, the country's leader. Here is the video. He's making a speech late Saturday at a military parade, and as he's saying, quote, "The hour of our economic recuperation has arrived," loud bang, everybody on stage flinches, ducks, watch this soldier, and then soldiers lined up on the boulevard below all run for their lives. Government says a couple of drones loaded with C4, that's an explosive, went off overhead. They have since arrested 6 people. There's been, we think, 4 attempts to overthrow or assassinate Maduro by members of the military. Your question, I think, is what is the U.S. policy? U.S. policy would obviously like to see free and fair elections. They would like Venezuela removed from the Organization of American States. President Trump has proposed invading Venezuela. He did that in a meeting with all the leaders of Latin America during the UN last year. They all told him it was a bad idea, but I have heard more than once, no one in the government denies it, by the way, and I've heard more than once that he's brought it up before that. All possibilities are on the table.
I mean, you could, in some kind of warped way, on a humanitarian basis, you could almost think that it would not be crazy for us to think of trying something. Maybe not that, but right. I feel bad for the middle class in Venezuela. I mean, they are in distress. It's been decimated. There's no middle class. They're starving. They're in distress. Yeah, it's terrible, terrible poverty. And this is a Western. I mean, this is a. Right. I mean,
the one thing I would say is, you know, remember we did invade a country based on those kind of concerns. It was Somalia way back when, and it worked out so poorly. So I think that we as a nation are not quite ready to, you know, you go in there, you break it, it's broken, you own it. It's pretty difficult. What do? Do you encourage a military coup? Who knows?
Yeah. Saffron.
Saffron's big.
I'm just wild about saffron.
I don't blame you. It's delicious.
She's just wild about me.
I'm more of a pistachio girl myself, but Iran, we've had reports that China's going to continue to buy oil from Iran.
Yes.
We've had reports that Europe and some of our other allies are pushing back on some of these sanctions.
Yes.
What's playing out?
So, bottom line, all these countries can say or do whatever they want. When the United States says, if you are subject to U.S. jurisdiction, i.e. you want to use dollars, we're going to tell you you can't. And if you get involved with Iran on any kind of transaction, you will be sanctioned. That is prohibited. So it almost takes the decision away from any country that has institutions that have, you know, international banks, right? So Europe's really going to have a tough time. China and India have institutions that, in theory, don't need access to the U.S. dollar. So in theory, they could still continue to buy oil.